It is like going on a date and then thinking you're gonna go straight to sex when like you've missed 7 steps. Like you know what I mean? Like it's just not that's not happening unless you're spontaneous and kinky like that. Whatever.
Welcome to Unshut, where nothing is off the table, keeping quiet and holding back is no longer an option. I am your host, Mo. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for being a special guest today. Are you ready to talk about all things Mariah Counts?
Yeah, are you?
I am so ready. We're going to travel back in time just a little bit, but where are you from?
I'm originally from San Diego, California, and then I came up to LA to pursue sports and kinesiology degree. And so I came up to La La Land, LA, and I haven't left.
What's the happiest, youngest, vivid memory you have about your childhood?
Probably like family gatherings at my nanny's house, my grandma's house. I lived there most of my growing up, and probably just like all my aunts and uncles, all my cousins, any neighborhood friends, anyone that wanted to face my family in any sort of game in the backyard. That's probably like highlight for me, like the family gatherings, like wiffle ball and football, and like there's a lot of boys in my family. I always ended up crying, whatever, because they pegged me with the wiffle ball, or they cheated, or I lost and I was upset about it. That kind of stuff.
Being from San Diego, were you a beach bum at all or no?
I am definitely a beach girly. I do have like Hawaiian blood, so I also am like Pacific Islander. And my dad played like beach volleyball growing up, so I'm definitely like a beach girly. I feel one with the ocean. I'm a Pisces, so I'm a super like water girl. Yeah, and like as a kid, I was like a fish, like always in the water. So definitely a beach girly.
You were an athlete. What sport and how long were you in it for?
I played like every sport. Played softball and baseball for 9 years. So I played baseball, t-ball, and then baseball until the girls kind of like got good enough for me to be able to like play with them. And then I switched over to softball. And then I played all the way into high school until I just hated like the politics of it. And by that time, I started playing volleyball to kind of follow my dad. I resisted it for a while because I was like, I'm not gonna do exactly what my dad did, but then I was like, I love it too much and I was good at it. So I went into it. So I did softball in high school for a little. I did volleyball all 4 years. I did track and field the last 3 years because I did softball the first year. And then I did basketball for 2 years as well until the scheduling just started to get too crazy because if I was in season for track and field, I was also in club season for volleyball. So I'm literally getting out of school at 3, going to track practice, going home for an hour to switch clothes and going to volleyball till like 9 p.m. So it was just like a constant, sport thing. And then my goal was to try and get a scholarship in college. So that's why I chose to go to Cal State Northridge up here in LA because they were allowing me to walk onto both teams and try and earn a scholarship. So I got to play volleyball, Division 1 volleyball my first year and track and field my first year. So I got to do both.
Would you say you were a natural at all of them, or was there a sport you tried and you were like, yeah, fuck this, it's not for me?
I'd say basketball is not my that's probably my least natural one. Yeah. Basketball, I just can jump. I'm just could jump and then like that was pretty much it.
I tried soccer for like maybe half a day and then baseball, and I was just like, this shit's just not for me. I did cross country, and then did some other, like I did power tumbling, and I was a cheerleader, of course, and I wanted to be a sports junkie so bad, and I've always been naturally good at almost any sport I tried, but I didn't realize how much running went into soccer, and I was like, yeah, this is not going to be for me.
I'm not a soccer. I played soccer when I was younger too. Yeah, I they had a hard time keeping me focused. I have ADHD and they definitely had a really hard time keeping me focused. So, so they moved like I couldn't do the running. I would get tired and then they put me in the goalie and I couldn't pay attention. And the same with softball when they put me in the outfield. I wouldn't pay attention, so they had to keep moving me up to a place where I would touch the ball more. And like finally, I was a catcher because that was just like I'm touching the ball almost every time. So yeah, I feel that. And yeah, I don't run. I do. When I say track and field, I really mean field. I was
There you
throwing
go.
shot put, discus, hammer, javelin, all that. So
Do you feel like the discipline as an athlete helped you as an artist?
oh, 100%. Sometimes when I speak to other artists or I even just like am kind of perusing the social medias, I find artists and then I kind of look like I wonder how long they've been doing this. And then I like, or if I meet them out and I'm like asking them how long they've been doing it. And then I like mention something that I'm doing towards my music career and they are like very surprised by it or like impressed by it. And I'm like, I get surprised because I just assume that everyone is working as hard as me. And I assume everyone is like, okay, here's the goal. Work back from the goal. Now you've just created the path to get to the goal. And, that's secondhand nature to me. And so it's weird that like not everyone thinks that way or like goes about, tackles things that way.
I've also found like a connection between athletes that also pursue artistry. Like I talk about this with my circle of friends all the time. The way that we are able to think quick on our toes and improvise. I know for me, being a choreographer, having to work with big numbers of people, I had to blend in so many different personalities to one routine. Being able to manage all the versatility, all the different dynamics, especially dealing with fucking psycho moms, I was able to really take that into the professional world and be a better professional than most because I knew
Sorry,
how to be
psycho
quick on my
moms.
toes.
Sorry, psycho moms.
Those moms that are like, my kid's the best. I'm like, your kid fucking
Oh yeah.
sucks.
Kind of like goes hand in hand with when I think about like, God, like why didn't I do this earlier? Like I think about it often, not in like a super regretful way, but I just immediately am like, God, like, why wasn't I doing this earlier? It's crazy to me that I spent like 20 years of my life in competitive sports. And then I remind myself, like, there was absolutely no time to be pursuing another passion because I was so passionate about sports. Like, there was no, like, I was like a bedroom cover girl kind of stuff, like sometimes, but that only really started in like middle school. And I see these artists now and they have all these videos of them like as babies and like toddlers and they're playing guitars and they're beating drums and I'm like that was just not me and it's crazy. I just think about the performance portion of sports. I loved to put on a good show when I was playing. It is a performance. And so when I think of it in that moment when I'm like, dang, why didn't I do this sooner? I remind myself like I was performing. I was trying to be the best on the court. I was trying to throw the farthest and I was trying to carry myself with grace when I lost. Like I was constantly performing. I'm like, okay, I've always been performing. We're just on a different stage now. We handle pressure well, like you handled all those different personalities and moms, and it's all just it's pressure.
It's funny you say that because it used to actually be something that made me really sad when I would go back and compare myself to other choreographers or other people in the industry. They have like cute clips of them dancing when they were like fucking 2 years old. It also made me think how much of that also becomes their obligation and their burnout is also a lot different, and why I was able to have a more longevity filled career than most of them because of that. And so it's really interesting how even going back to like the discipline, it can always go two ways. Discipline can bring out the rebellion and chaos in us because we were so disciplined with the sport, or it can become a tool that we use in our artistry.
When someone's pursuing a passion, their passion and not their parents' passion or what their parents paved for them, it's such a different road. And it's so much more genuine. So.
Exactly. Did you ever showcase your voice as an athlete?
Definitely was not. I was kind of like a closet bedroom kind of cover girl. Just like when I could give some energy to it, but then it was just like back to business. When you're a collegiate athlete, it's a full-time job and more because you're traveling all the time in season. So yeah, I think when I got a little older, I started to be a little more open and I did like my first set at this little coffee shop. It was like an hour set and I had a friend who was playing the cajon and we just learned a bunch of covers. And I think that was like my first performance truly.
I just watched this video on TikTok literally last night where
Uh-huh.
and she's funny about it, but she was like, that moment I discovered I can sing, and she's just randomly humming this song. And then she stops and she's like, huh. And then she repeats
Oh, it's
those lyrics
Jesse.
again.
You're talking about Jesse.
Yes, 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 yes. And so that really made me think like, oh fuck, I've got to ask Mariah, like, when did you realize you had a singing voice? Like how early on can you remember you like going, oh fuck, I
I'd
got
say
vibes.
that's probably the biggest thing I have like imposter syndrome with is my vocals because I'm realistic and I'm transparent. I am not like a Mariah Carey or Ariana Grande or Demi Lovato. I've never been fully like I have an amazing voice. But I will say probably like in middle school, maybe like fifth grade, I would say that like my family would say things. But I kind of like knew that it was something I needed to be better at. And I would actually sit on my a bar stool in front of my TV as a kid. And I would, the like I don't even know what it's called, but it's like the air blower thing that you do to like the fire going. We had one of those, and I don't know why I thought that was what I should use, but I would hang it from the entertainment center there, and I would watch the same six music videos on whatever channel, VH1 it was, and I would sing as if I was performing to like these huge stadiums. And so like I just like always have been like a visualizer, manifester, visualizer, even though I didn't know it back then. I look back now and I'm like, I knew that I could do these things.
Well, I mean,
But
not to toot your own horn or make your head big or anything like that, but I do feel like there's a reason why so many artists that start off so strong with fucking belting notes, they age and they don't have that ability to keep hitting those notes. It's the reason why there's only like one Celine Dion, right? She's been able to hold the same fucking notes throughout all of her songs from like 1985 all the way to today. You may not think you're a belter. You may not think you're this vocalist. It's like, but you're also not burning your voice out. So, and I think you have a great fucking like your voice is, which I'll save those compliments for later because I have some questions for you about
okay.
that. When did you pick up your first instrument?
Probably about 8 was when I had some piano lessons, maybe a little younger. But I got fired from pretty much all my piano teachers because again, I had ADHD. I had all the D's. I had OCD, I had ADHD, I had ADD, I had all of them. Middle
I
school.
just made a connection right now, hearing you talk about like all the times you got kicked out or you weren't really invested in anymore.
Yeah.
Isn't it so interesting how it's always the people that don't really get invested in who learn to invest in themselves better? Think about this with like some of my classmates. I was always overseen. Like no one ever really cared. Teachers never really cared to ask me questions about like my home life or anything like that. And it was always like the cool athletes that they were like really giving all the credit to and all this bullshit. And yet, like, I go back and I'm like, fuck, well, I was able to invest in myself way more than those people that were getting all the fucking attention.
I do wish I had a little more of a foundational understanding of music and music theory, I'd say, just as a songwriter, now as I'm like developing my craft in songwriting. But that's something that I can absolutely learn.
100%. Sometimes the craft that makes the most success is the one that cannot be taught, is the one that
Yeah.
you figure it out as you go, you know? I love that your sound is extremely versatile. You can rock, you can pop, you can ballad. In my opinion, not a sound or genre you can't do. Like, in my opinion, I feel like you can really hit any genre, and I feel like I could hear your voice in it. What were some of the complete opposite sounds you remember listening to when you were younger?
My mom definitely listened to country, and my dad definitely listened to country too. I listened to a lot of Elvis. I listened to a lot of Stray Cats because I grew up with my nanny, so I listened to a lot of like the older, the boomer stuff.
I love that. When you tap into different sounds, for example, going from a ballad to a sexy sound, are there
Mhm.
ever thoughts of how your audience will receive a different sound of you?
All the time. So like when I was on tour, it was definitely like it was such an amazing learning experience. Of course I planned for it and I think about it and I'm like an over planner when it comes to like a performance. Like I want to make sure that like I'm being received how I want to be received without forcing it because you can't force people to, you can't force feelings or a response that you're like gonna elicit from people. But I definitely would think about the in between. A lot of artists underestimate planning, like scripting their show when they haven't had a lot of experience performing. And that is just something that it is like, it is like going on a date and then thinking you're gonna go straight to sex when like you've missed 7 steps. Like you know what I mean? Like it's just not that's not happening unless you're spontaneous and kinky like that. Whatever you do, you. But
Exactly. You do you.
typically there's kind of some steps that you'd hit. And so for me to plan that out is kind of like the in between. And if I don't, there's that like stage presence that you can't really like necessarily teach, which is kind of that on the spot stuff is like, I forgot to say this thing I was supposed to say before the sexy song after I sang the dead grandma song. I forgot to mention that I'm about to switch it up. And then I start it, I look at the set list and I'm like, yep, okay. Forgot to say that. What am I going to say? And it's kind of like, then I make a joke.
When I was younger, I used to listen to love songs very differently than most people. Like I would listen to a love song, and even though it was about uplifting, captivating love, finding love, and how happy that journey is, it used to make me so sad because I'm like, I'm probably never going to find love. So I've always been curious with writers, with musicians, has there ever been a song that was intended to be happy but brought out the sadness in you?
Certain songs, certain artists, they usually occur during eras of your life. Usually whatever era I'm in, anything that I associate anything I listen to is going to be associated with that era. It definitely even happens with my own songs. Like it's something that's so happy that I cry. I'm a big crier.
Fuck me too. It's crazy. During the holidays, are you a Grinch or a total holiday junkie?
I'm a fucking junkie.
What tea can you spill on your Christmas EP and visual?
Yeah, I'm really excited. It's like a music video for each song, and it's put within like kind of like a Christmas special base. Think Mariah Carey's Christmas special, but Mariah Counts.
Watching you talk about it, I'm like, holy shit, that holiday spirit is gonna be on there.
It's gonna
I
be
just know it.
Yeah, it's gonna be so fun. It's so me, all original. So it's six original Christmas songs. Two of my favorite ones are called Hot Toddy and Mrs. Claus. Hot Toddy is a song that is gonna just be so lit because it's just that song that's like everybody knows that one family junction that they're like, fuck, you need a hot toddy to get through the holidays. And then it kind of like is a double entendre, like works for like hottie toddy, like a girl. Like if I were to bring a girl home, it would make my holiday family time maybe a little better. Like so that's one of my favorite ones. And then the other one is Mrs. Claus. And that's like my take on like all these like Santa baby and like sexualizing Santa songs is like the hook is like, guess I'm on the naughty list for having dirty thoughts about Mrs. Claus. Like
Yes.
it's gonna be really cool. So
I'm so excited. Something new I learned is how artists will release snippets of their songs, for example, on TikTok. And if it goes viral and they profit from, they use that money to go towards actually releasing the song and stuff. How quick in your career did you realize just how expensive it was to write, produce, record, and release a song?
towards the end of finishing my first album, I did my first music video for my song Cheers, and I had all these connections at the gym that I work at. The video is probably like 50K, 500 a song. Towards the end, I was like, man, but I'm doing 9 songs times 500 plus the mastering. And then I'm thinking, okay, I want to do some videos. I'm like, holy shit. I'd say towards the end of my debut album was when I started to realize, holy shit, this is going to take a lot more than just, having good connections and a couple $100s.
It really does always go untalked about. Like, I think when we hear independent artists talking about, it's so expensive to, produce this song, it's so expensive to get this song out, I feel like so many people really wonder, well, how much is a lot?
Mhm.
Would you say your 63 show self booked tour,
Yeah.
driving across the country, is one of your favorite accomplishments?
Absolutely. There's like nothing that could ever give me the experience that I got in those 13 weeks. I definitely feel proud when I tell people it because it's just like not a lot of people would do it. Not a lot of girls would do it. And not a lot of girls that have only been doing music for 2 years, 2.5 years would do that. Like I started planning it, I'd say maybe like a couple months prior. Maybe like
Wow.
I'd say 3 probably. I was talking about it for a year. COVID was happening, and I was like, when shit opens back up, I'm fucking out the door. It is happening. And I didn't have even close to the following I have or the actual fans that I have now. And being on the road by myself, having to drive and email and like I'm driving 6 hours and I'm just barely gonna make it 30 minutes before I'm supposed to be popping in on the stage. Like and trying to make sure I have a place to sleep. Most places I did not have a place to sleep. I mean, like, I would not ever do it again. And I definitely wouldn't do it the same way
Well, it
because,
tells one hell of a story, though.
yeah, it was pretty wild. Just sleeping in random people's houses. I mean, just like, yeah, priceless. Kind of just like could never. get that experience any other way.
You've shared a very recent project. You wrote letters in case anything happened to you, which, by the way, this is true artistry, in my opinion. Releasing the heaviness we don't want to take with us when we leave this physical form. It's like releasing the power it may have had over us at some point. But you also said in this project you wanted to bridge the gap between humans and mortality, which is a topic most avoid discussing. When did this idea come to mind, and when did you decide to bring this idea to life?
Yeah. So this is like a project that snowballed, of course. I was just planning on doing like a 3 to 4 song little EP that came from this idea in high school. How lucky we are to live right now and how quickly it can be taken from us. And I just like, as I've grown up, I've realized that not everyone around me, mostly not ever, like most people around me had not experienced a death in their family or anything. Maybe my junior year, but we lost like 3 to 5 students, and they were all just like so like tragic and traumatic, like they all just were. And it was just like I felt like a mama bird. I felt like I could feel that my team was coming to me. I could feel that I was giving off, like, I can handle this. You guys can come to me, which is crazy because I was like kind of a disaster, but I just like I knew how to deal with death, and I'd grieved before. And so I remember like later in my high school career, I was like told my friend, I was like, I kind of want to write letters just in case like something happens to me, because I was like wanting to know more from my nanny. I want to say things. I want to like leave letters because I just want people to know how much I love them. My friend was like, that's a little suicide-y. Like you can't do that. And I was like, I'm not, that's not where it's coming from. It's coming from a place of being there, having been there and done that. And, so I just kind of like let it go because she was like, it's a little suicide-y, like maybe don't do that. So I didn't. And then when I was like finishing my third leg of tour, I'm gonna need a new project soon. This could be a really good time to just kind of like release those feelings of like wanting to just like leave a couple things in letter/song form. But what happened was some people ask you sometimes, on a whim, like, what do you want to leave behind? What's the legacy you want, and you give them some little cookie cutter answer or some like really broad general kind of like, I want to like touch people's hearts and like, leave an impact. But like when you sit down and you need to write it down and you start to kind of like go through the different people that you would want to say things to and like the different topics that you would want to talk about, it can be extremely invasive and like very draining. Like I was in a place for a solid year after tour. And I was on like a huge crash, like huge adrenaline crash from tour, and I was home and I was singing about death and and writing about like the things I want to say before I die. And then I'm thinking about dying, and then I'm thinking about like leaving people behind. And it's just like it was so draining. And so then it became 8 songs. It's just like probably the most special project. And what I've done is like what we were talking about earlier is like you put these sad lyrics over upbeat songs. My whole album is about death. Yet I think there's only like 2 slow ones. One song that's out, Favorite Girl, and that's upbeat, and it's like, twirl you all around like you used to in the kitchen. It's like super happy, but it's really me saying from the afterlife, if I was there, I'm sorry I
Mm.
can't be there right now. If I was, I would twirl you all around like we used to in the kitchen. It's not a long distance relationship. It's I'm dead and I'm telling you like it's gonna be okay and I love you and you were my love. Just like it's really true to like me, like kind of like hiding a really deep meaning, but keeping it relatable to like other people too. If they're not in the mood to think about death, like they can maybe relate it to something, something else.
When you were thinking about like death in that stage of your life, did it almost feel like a psychotic break to you? Because I recently experienced that about a year and a half ago or so, where I could not stop thinking about death. And I was almost feeling like I was being like, it felt like a psychotic break. I felt like I was maybe becoming schizophrenic. Like I would feel like something cold, the rush that I would feel out of my body. Like, is this what it feels like when I leave my physical form? Like, I went through a period of time where I was obsessed with this topic, but I've never talked about it with anyone. Did it
Yeah.
feel like that for you at all?
Yeah, I think it did. I was like When I say it was draining, like I was kind of unwell. Like I was going days without leaving the house. I was going days without like showering. Like I was not well. And you just said like you never talked to anyone about it. If you are like hanging out with your friends and you were to bring up something morbid, almost always somebody will say like, wow, like way to be morbid. It just should be way more normal. It shouldn't be like you and your friends are high on the couch and you have this like existential like thought about death, and it's okay to talk about it because you're in a separate kind of universe than your normal. So you're not accountable for like the things that you're thinking, the depths in which you're going to go into this topic. You're kind of like remove the accountability. But if you're
Mm.
sober and you're just like with your friend and you're like, man, like, if something ever happens to me, like I do really want you to know that like that one time we were at that coffee shop and you said this one thing, like I'll never forget it. It's so weird. I don't know why. Like immediate if you said it to your friend, they would be like, oh my God, like are you okay? Like what's wrong? Like it's like you can't talk about things that are going to happen. That was the point of putting the music out. Writing the music was for me. Maybe changing certain little lyrics to make it a little more relatable. That's for everyone. And then putting it out, that's for me to feel like, okay, I could go feeling a little more relieved. And also, I'm giving everybody in the world a tool. If they don't want to talk about it with their friends, they can listen to this album and they can be like, somebody gets me, because some people will never have these talks with people. And so if people are going to listen to, this new album coming out and they are going to feel heard and they're going to feel spoken for, and it might help them like express it any something, write their own letters, then that is a huge, like I will be hugely proud of.
Coming to the realization that sometimes putting things down on paper or releasing certain things, talking about it to people, it really does release the power it once had over us. Let's release everything that has, maybe it doesn't hold us back or hold us down for every day of the year, but at some point it did. So release that.
Yeah. When I was posting about like how hard the project was for me and that I was working on, and like writing songs and crying and sharing really raw clips of stuff like that I just happened to catch on camera, not having like a slew of texts from my friends being like, are you okay? Like I just saw this. To them it might seem like it's just promotion, but it's real, and so it can get really isolating. Also, I was feeling like really alone. I was like, I'm the only one thinking about death and I'm posting about it and none of my friends are reaching out to me. When my friends post stuff that is concerning, I hit them up immediately.
I actually recently made a post about this and I talked about how we have normalized only checking on the people that have vocally said I'm not okay. But
Yeah.
we don't check on the people that are doing these creative outlets that can also be so isolating. Out of everyone on my Instagram, only one person responded and was like, "Oh shit, I think that sounds like you. How are you doing?" So you're absolutely right. It's so
Crazy.
isolating.
It can cause you to feel like you need to reconsider who you are checking in on, and who you consider your closest people. Like it's like how much of that can you blame on them though, because like they might have things going on too. It's just like hard, and so you just like get in this cycle of like, I'm alone, let me write about it, let me, and then I post about it because we have to be posting as artists. And it just was a really really tough time. I wrote all these things, then I had to go and record everything. So then you kind of like I got a little better. I was like, okay, I'm done writing, and then I kind of went right back into it because I was recording all the vocals for it, and it just like, and that's a performance. You have to give even more. Now you have to believe what you're saying more than when you wrote them, when it came from a place of experience. And then you put these songs on in a tour and you have to perform them, and it's like kind of like this cyclical experience, and then you're promoting it. And it's another thing, like when I perform songs and I say things that are really real and sad, and I don't know if my friends are going to ever ask me. But my mom and my dad, they have asked me before certain things, in particular with this album, because it is pretty heavy. We filter things sometimes to protect the people in our lives that were around when we were experiencing trauma. We tend to not share everything because we worry about exposing other people that should have been doing something, or maybe that
Mm-hmm.
did something wrong. And I saw something recently that your experience is your experience. And if you want to share it, you have every right to share it. You cannot just protect the people that were within the experience as well. You are allowed to share your experience. And so like I was like, you know what? I'm gonna share the experience that I was fucking medicated as a kid. And like it was not a good time and it was not good for me. And I didn't do me well. and it was traumatizing. And of course, that immediately makes my parents look bad. Specifically, like the song So When I Die, They Don't Die Too, just me writing about a bunch of things I want people to know about before I die that I don't talk about a lot. And one of them, like as I mentioned, is like being molested as a kid. And I thought my dad knew about it and he didn't know about it.
Wow.
I saw him a few weeks ago and he brought it up and it was very uncomfortable. And I was not as uncomfortable because I thought he knew. He was uncomfortable because he feels, guilty. Now he's having this whole experience. And so it's like, like this, it goes beyond me when I'm sharing about experiences that I've gone through and am going through and other people are involved in. So it's kind of just this, and you posted saying nobody checks in on certain people and nobody responds except for one. If you're calling people out and they don't even care. It's a totally weird experience, but nobody asked me to do it. And so that's what I remind myself. Nobody asked me to share these experiences and nobody asked me except for fans. They want to know.
Well, shout
It's
out to the people that do check in.
it's
It's
us.
so easy to look at someone's Instagram and be like, Mariah's doing her thing. She's busy. She's recording. She's living out her dream. What could be so wrong in her life? So shout out to the people that see past that, the very few that do.
Yeah, definitely you and me.
For sure.
That's us.
Another thing I'm dying to ask you, I am a ballad groover. So when I listen to songs, specifically Better Off Alone, I don't listen to it and sit still. I am a ballad groover to the heart. Like it moves me. It's so hard to explain. And again, this is the first time I'm
You're
openly
there.
talking about this. Yes, like I'll listen to certain love songs or heartache or breakup songs that are just so mellow. I want to fucking move. Like I don't listen to songs traditionally, I guess.
Sure.
And Better Off Alone is one of those songs for me. I listen to it and it fucking moves me, dude. Like I am just like I'm exploding. So I wanted to ask you, like, when's the last time you listened to a song that was obviously not meant to groove, but you were just like, fuck.
Ocean Eyes, that song, I just like can't not like feel the moving of it. That one just it just totally gets me. I can hear every little thing in it and it definitely is a full body experience.
Yes. Did you
Say
ever
those.
think your music would do that to people?
I think that I did. I think that I did. And because I write about things that I know people are going to resonate with.
I love that. My mom and I were actually texting. I don't know if it'll be flipped around or not, but I had showed her your music. I have the blurry thing, but it might be backwards. But my mom was like, I'll
Same.
read it to you. I sent her Better Off Alone, and I was just like, beautiful voice. And she goes, oh my goodness, I got chills all over my body. I'm like, same. And she said, her voice, oh my God. I said, well, her Christmas song, just in case, also gave me chills. And so I wanted to share that with you because my mom and I share that in common. I've never really known anyone I hate calling it a ballad groover. I just don't know what it is, but it really does take, and not a whole lot of music can do that to me.
It's kind of like visceral, like it's like a visceral, like it just like kind of happens, like you have a response to it. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm like, so it just made me feel so happy to know that not only one, connected with you, but two, that my mom was feeling it too, because it's kind of, I don't know, I felt like it was just so cool that
Yeah.
my mom and I could really share that experience again now in my 30s. And as a kid, we would listen to ballads and she was kind of my groover too. And again, I've never really known anyone to do that with sad or soft, slow songs. So I love it. So your music
That's
gave
really cool.
me an awesome experience with my mom. So
Yeah, that's really cool. That song in particular is good for that. I sang that in a lesbian club in Columbus once, and it was a moment for me because I had my in-ears in, so I couldn't like you can't always hear. It's pretty isolating when you have those in. But I like heard something and I pulled my ear out and and people were singing it. Whoa, I was like people are crying in the club right now to this song and this is wild because I wasn't even gonna sing it and I was like, oh, I should throw this in. Let me sing it. And people were like singing it to me and I was like, wow, like this song is like getting people are getting this. I'm glad that you had that experience with your mom.
Yeah,
and
I mean, I didn't know that about the lesbian club that you had people
crazy.
moving to it too. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I'm like, you really are doing your thing in that way. And everything that you're manifesting, everything that you're saying is truly coming to fruition. And
We're doing
yeah,
it over here. I say trying, but we're really just doing.
absolutely. We're just doing. There is no trying, we're doing. So I love
Yeah.
it. Can
Yep.
you please tell everyone listening where they can find you, where they can stream your music, all of the above details so that they can stalk your life after this episode?
Alexa, play Mariah Counts. No, I'm just kidding. You can on it. Yeah, you can just find me anywhere. Mariah Counts. Mariah. It's just like Mariah Carey, but counts. And I was named after Mariah Carey, so there's that.
Get out. I love
Yeah,
it.
I know. My mom really loved her. I mean, you can literally just type in Mariah Counts anywhere, and you'll find something of mine, and it'll lead you to everything else. That's my plug. That's all I got. The Google If you Google me, you will find me. And if you're looking for me on social media, Instagram is MC Schmammer because I thought it was funny in college, but now it's just become my identity, so I'm keeping it. And then TikTok is just Mariah Counts, but you can just find that on the Google.
Google it, baby. Everyone, Mariah counts.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.